Do you trust yourself, or are you constantly seeking the opinions of others to make decisions? In this episode, you'll learn how your lack of self-trust is impeding your growth personally and professionally, why you need to unfollow anyone who sways you from trusting yourself, and 5 ways to cultivate self-trust now. Now, if you are a loyal thought leader or you're brand new to this podcast, please take a moment right now to hit pause and drop a rating and review on iTunes and download a few episodes. This would help me out so much. I'm just looking to get this message out to more people and would love your support in making that happen. So download a few episodes, drop a rating and review. Now, if you have a question about this episode or any other episode, or you want to share your number one takeaway, text me at 1-781-336-0160 and be sure to mention the episode number. Now, when you text me, you'll get an automated reply as a first text, but after that, it is me. You'll be texting directly with me. So make sure you do that. And then if you want to join my email community, you can do that by going to rubyfremon.com/subscribe. Now it is time to learn how to cultivate self-trust. Hey, thought leaders, I am back with a quickie episode. And don't get me wrong, just because it's a quickie doesn't mean it's not going to be good. So that could have been taken a whole lot of ways. Anyways, it's good to have humor nowadays, isn't it? When everyone's being super serious during this pandemic. But really, this topic is something that I touched on in episode 172, feeling pressured to lead during the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen to that first, episode 172. But I really wanted to elaborate on one of the things that I brought up in that episode, which is self-trust and cultivating self-trust. I believe that right now, in the midst of this pandemic, we are being called to trust ourselves. That this is truly an enormous opportunity for each and every single one of us to develop self-trust, right? To trust ourselves in a deep way where we honor our true decisions and our own choices, where we don't continue to lean on other people to help us make our decisions for us. Now, don't get me wrong, as a coach and mentor, this is what I do with my clients. And if you ask any of my clients, I do not let them have it that easy. If they ask me a question on what they should be doing, I always throw that question back at them. Because truly, at the end of the day, what's right for me may not be right for you. And so we need to encourage each other to come to our own decisions and choices. And sometimes you need a coach and mentor to help you make that happen, right? So when it comes to self-trust, this is something that I struggled with for the majority of my life, and I didn't really know it. It didn't really come into my awareness fully. Like I didn't really become fully aware of how much I didn't trust myself until I would say like 2018, 19, when I was in the midst of my deep healing journey with plant medicine. I realized that I had developed habits of leaning onto other people for a lot of things. So not seeking guidance or support, but like really leaning. There would be times when I'd be in full breakdown mode and I needed to make a decision or a choice or something. And I would break down because I couldn't find someone to call who was available to help me make that decision. And that's a problem, right? If we are constantly seeking other people to help us make our decisions for us, that is a problem. And sometimes we do this because we want them to secretly validate our own decisions that we have, but we're scared to validate those decisions ourselves. So self-trust plays an important role both in your personal life and in your business, especially nowadays with the pandemic. And I spoke about this in episode 172 about how we're being bombarded with messages from so-called experts uh, on how we need to be and how we need to show up during this pandemic. And I'm going to echo what I said in that episode. Like, you get to be whoever it is that you need to be right now. You get to do whatever the fuck you feel called to do right now, whatever it is that you need. But you can only come to that answer by taking time to listen to yourself, to listen to your intuition, to listen to your internal guidance system, and to trust that decision that is coming up for you. For example, me, I am someone who really cultivated a deep habit of doing for the majority of my life. I come from an immigrant family. This is what I was shown. Like, if you want success, if you want anything, you have to really fucking work hard for it. You know, that's in our here. It's in my ancestral lineage. My grandfather did this. My father did this. I mimicked it. And I was doing that for a very long time. And a lot of that programming in my head completely deconstructed itself when I was in the Amazon jungle last year in November. And if you want to hear more about that and my diet with plant medicine in the jungle, then go listen to episodes 155 and 157, which are Lessons from the Jungle, part 1 and part 2. But while I was in the jungle, I was really put in an environment where I had to learn how to trust myself quickly, because if I didn't, I could actually be in danger, or could feel as if I'm in danger and wouldn't be able to participate in anything. So really my choices were like curl up in a ball in my spider infested hut, which also didn't feel safe, or trust myself enough to be in that environment and to be with the medicine and to be in the jungle for 14 and a half days. And so I cultivated self-trust really quickly. But during that cultivation process, I also learned how much I didn't trust myself. You know, for example, walking at night in the dark in my first few nights there, my first couple of nights there. I mean, it was so dark there. The stars were not seen every night there, because above the Amazon jungle, there's always a lot of clouds. And so many nights were pitch black, like the darkest night I had ever seen, like a darkness that was so thick it kind of swallowed you up. And you couldn't see in front of you without your headlamp. And so I would turn my light on, but even with that, I could only see a few feet in front of me. And that was scary for me. But I had to learn how to walk at night in order to get from place to place in this village. I had to learn how to do that quickly, because I couldn't depend on other people to walk around with me and to support me through that, because they were all going through their own journeys. So I was in this environment where I had to learn to trust myself quickly. And I realized through that, wow, I don't even trust myself enough to walk back to my own hut. Right? Like, that scared me, the fact that I didn't trust myself enough. And as I spent more time in the jungle and this matrix programming was deconstructing in my mind, I started to see all the different ways in which I don't trust myself, how I don't trust myself in my business, and how I'm always relying on the opinions of others to make my decisions, or relying on other people to make those decisions for me. And this was something that I had become aware of around 2017. I started making shifts and changes in my business as of then. But really, 2019 was the first year where I started to do things my way, truly, truly just my way. And that takes self-trust. So right now, with social media being what it is, everyone's super loud, everyone's an expert, everyone has an opinion of how you should be spending your time, what you should be doing with your business, the pivots, the shifts, the recession proofing, all that shit. It's that much more important for you to hone in on your inner voice, on your inner truth, and cultivate self-trust. Because yes, these times are uncertain that we're living in right now. But and things are never going to be the same, because now you're seeing just how uncertain life truly is. It's not that life was certain before this pandemic. Nothing was certain. But right now you're seeing the facade of certainty, how all of that has been lifted. And this is a gift. So you can be certain of a few things, right? The fact that we all are born, the fact that we all will die, the fact that the seasons will change, the fact that change is constant and evolution is constant, the fact that you have an inner guidance system and you get to listen to that. You get to listen to your inner voice or the inner nudges or however it is that your intuition communicates with you. And everyone has this. Okay. You don't have to be like some gifted psychic or intuitive to have intuition. Like, we all have it. Okay. And it's up to you to really understand what that looks like for you. So throughout this pandemic and however long this is going to last, because that in itself is uncertain, just like everything else, use this time as an invitation. Like, choose to see it as an invitation to trust yourself in all ways, when it comes to your business, when it comes to your movement, when it comes to your presence online, when it comes to your life, your personal life, your relationships, your friendships. Use this time to really cultivate self-trust. And I want to share with you a few ways that you can do that. Number one is unfollow anyone online who sways you away from trusting yourself. So the people who are telling you one side, showing you one side or one thing, telling you that there's only one way to be right now, those are the most dangerous voices to listen to, because there is always a plethora of ways for us to be. There's always an abundance of things we can do to achieve similar results. So just start to unfollow those people who are swaying you away from trusting yourself and trusting your intuition. The second piece is to, and I love this, I'm actually now in the midst of incorporating this into my every week, is to go offline at least one full day each week. So I've talked about this before in other episodes, how, I go offline at night, and during this pandemic, with everything being as loud and disruptive as it is, I realized I need more than that. Like, I need a full 24 fucking hours offline. And so I did that this past weekend, and I'd never felt better. I actually went completely offline and off all digital devices, including text messaging and phone, for 24 hours. And then the next day I just kept off social media. And that felt so good. When you go offline for a full day, you give your system an opportunity to reset. And that's really important, because it's hard to tune into your inner voice when you are listening to so many other people's voices. And you can sit there and you can say, well, I'm not listening to anyone's voices. I'm just like looking at social media. You are listening to other people's voices. Whether you know it or not, your unconscious mind is always inputting things as you're scrolling. And that input is going to influence you in some way, shape, or form. That just happens. So make sure you go offline at least one full day each week. The other thing, and this is important to do daily, is to create space in your daily routine to sit in silence. Now, you can make that look however the fuck you want to make it. Maybe it's sitting in silence and just sitting and doing nothing. Maybe it's sitting in silence and meditation. Maybe it's sitting in silence with breath work. Maybe it's sitting in silence with journaling. Maybe it's a combination of all these things. Find the way in which you're able to sit in silence that works for you. I know journaling can be a powerful processor for a lot of people. It helps you get your thoughts out of your mind where they're all jumbled up and mixed up, and onto paper where you can look at them and actually see the truth behind your thoughts. And then meditation is great because it's just an opportunity for you to sit in silence, which we never do in our world. And then breath work is a powerful, powerful tool to help you connect with your body, oxygenate your system, rev your motors up, reset your nervous system, and clear your mind in a way that, like, let me tell you, I've never experienced before. I do a method called dopamine activation breathing that I absolutely love, and I do this every day. I've never loved my morning routine as much as I do now after learning this breathwork technique. And if you're interested in learning it, this is taught by Marcel Hoff, who is the Iceman Hoff's brother. And I can offer you 70% off the course. It's a great starter course for anyone looking to get into breath work. So look for the link for that in the show notes. Okay. So create space in your daily routine to sit in silence. The fourth thing is to really listen to or feel what your internal guidance system is telling you. And I say that intentionally, listen or feel, because some people feel it, like it feels like a gut punch or a nudge, or it's just like this feeling. And some people hear it, like it's auditory. You hear a voice inside your head. So really make that time to create the space to listen to or feel what your internal guidance system is telling you. And this is best done when you're sitting in silence or right after you've sat in silence. Now, the fifth thing is I'm going to give you questions. So say you have to make a decision, and normally you rely on other people to help you make the decisions. Instead of that, ask yourself the following two questions. When it comes to making a decision, ask yourself the following two questions. Question number one, what decision should I make? What decision should I make? And then question number two, what decision do I truly feel called to make? Okay. And you will most likely get different answers. One is going to be the should, which is influenced by the many voices of other people that you intake online and offline. And the other is going to be what your internal guidance system really, really wants you to do. So these are just a few ways to cultivate self-trust. And the more that you do these things, the more you're going to build that muscle, because you're going to start to experience what's on the other side of that, right? Because quite often when we don't trust ourselves, we get into trouble, right? We end up in relationships that don't serve us, or friendships that are toxic, or making business decisions that really go against everything we want to do. Been there, done that. But when you trust yourself and trust the decisions that you make and take action on those decisions, let me tell you, you will fall into a state of alignment quicker than anything. This is what happened to me in 2019. And I've talked about this many times, and how I'm able to attract really fucking aligned clients that bring me joy, clients that excite me, clients that I'm really passionate about serving with absolute ease. Like I don't have to do big pushes or promos anymore. It feels really effortless because I am in full trust of everything that I'm putting out there. The messaging is all me. The programs and offers that I create, that really there aren't that many. And this is because I trust myself enough to just create few rather than too many, which I used to do. Everything is aligned with what I believe to be right and true for me. And that comes from a deep space of self-trust. So during this pandemic, I invite you to learn how to trust yourself and play around with that trust and do things that truly you feel called to do, that feel aligned with you. And that may look completely different than what I'm doing and how I'm showing up. And that may look truly different than how your coach or mentor, the people who inspire you or you look up to, it might be completely different than what they're doing and how they're showing up. And that's okay. What matters is that you're doing what you feel called to do right now, and you're being who you feel called to be right now. That's important. So use this time to cultivate self-trust. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Today's Thought Leader, where I'm challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. Please be sure to download a few episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. And if you have a question about this episode or you want to share a takeaway, please shoot me a text message, 1-781-336-0160. And just remember to mention the episode number, which is 175. And then finally, if we're not already connected on social media, please connect with me. My handle is @IamRuby on all social media platforms. Make sure you check back on Monday for a new episode of Today's Thought Leader, where you will learn how to create freedom within yourself with Garen Jones. This episode is so inspirational. So make sure you check back on Monday. Thank you, thought leaders, for being here, for listening, for tuning in. I appreciate you. And use this time to trust yourselves.